Well, someone who has been alive, I think it's fair to say, to Labour's failures, certainly to Keir Starmer's failings, certainly as she sees them, is Rosie Duffield, MP for Canterbury and Whitstable. Of course, she was elected as a Labour MP last July, but I think it was in September she decided to become an independent for reasons we discussed on the show at the time. We had on the show at the time. Had this extreme dissatisfaction, certainly, I think, with the way that she felt she'd been treated by the Labour Party and Keir Starmer. Rosie Duffield, thanks so much for joining us on the show once again this morning. I suppose now, with a sort of year on since you were elected then as a Labour MP, and you've obviously had time for the dust to settle since you're deciding to sit as an independent, any regrets about so doing?
Absolutely none whatsoever. I think your last caller, Hassan, just summed up how the country have noticed things are going and how they feel about this Labour government. And it is just overwhelming disappointment, but not just for voters, for Labour MPs as well. And it's clear that the newer MPs that were all selected due to loyalty to Keir Starmer, or perceived loyalty at the time, have started to kind of question everything as well.
And where do you draw the line? Where is the problem as you see it coming from then?
It was really interesting hearing some of the interview with Tom Baldwin, because his experience of Keir Starmer seems to be greatly different from most backbenchers, and most MPs are backbenchers. And certainly since he became leader, I mean, I've mentioned this before, and now people are starting to speak up about it as well, other MPs. He doesn't have any engagement with his backbench team whatsoever. So this guy who sort of got to know him and is writing a lovely touchy-feely biography and interviews in the Times, that's a character I have never, considering there were only 204 MPs in Labour before this election, none of us really knew him at all. He didn't sort of talk to us particularly, didn't meet us in the tea room, didn't do the things that other previous Labour leaders have done, like sit when we're doing votes and be approachable for chats about issues. And so we don't really know this character. And the point about that is that if you don't get to know your backbench MPs, you don't know their area, you can't know those areas if you've never visited them, you don't know what the voters in that particular constituency are thinking. And therefore, you're going to be hugely surprised when your poll ratings dip in the way that they have.
So when you hear Tom Baldwin say one of the things about Starmer is that, because he wears his ideology lightly, that he's a sort of quite normal bloke, that isn't your experience?
No, I think he's the most establishment leader that we've known actually in recent years. He doesn't come across as a normal bloke. Maybe he feels he is, but he doesn't come across like that at all to the MPs that he's leading.
When we sort of looking ahead, obviously, look, I mean, as we were saying to Hassan there, it was never going to be easy. I'm sure you accept that yourself. It was never going to be easy. There was a very difficult inheritance. The world situation as it is. Looking ahead to year two, do you think, trying to be, I suppose, as charitable as possible to your old former colleagues, do you think that it is possible to turn this around and get on a surer footing?
Absolutely, because, that old saying, a week is a long time in politics, is so true. During the Hartlepool, just after the Hartlepool by-election, we thought that Keir was gone. We thought that the party had done so badly. He wasn't even popular with the quiet, loyal MPs that were sort of serving in the shadow cabinet. But he turned things around then quite dramatically. And I think it is entirely possible to get back on track. But I don't think that the Labour Party will take control of the next government and be in government for quite a long time. And it's simply down to winter fuel allowance. No matter how much analysis we do of everything else, people are still so angry about that, and they're not going to forget it.
But do you think Starmer can do that himself? Do you think he's got it in him?
No.
You don't think? So you think
No.
it would require a change of leader?
Yes, I'm afraid so. I mean, a lot of us, if I'm being absolutely honest, because I can be and some of my colleagues can't be, none of us really imagined that he would take us 5 whole years before the general election. We were wondering what was going to happen at some point. Would he do a sort of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown arrangement with another senior Labour figure? Because nobody really saw him lasting the distance. And I don't feel differently now. I don't imagine, I'm prepared to be massively wrong, but I don't imagine that he's going to lead us into the next election.
Is there, if it were to be the case there were a new leader, would there be a leader could tempt you back into the Labour Party? Is there anything?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my home. It's my heart and soul. I mean, it would have to be someone who would agree to incorporate the left, because if you look at the split and divide, particularly over things like this welfare bill, that divide is almost starker than ever, between the loyalists, sort of centralists that are loyal to Keir Starmer, and the left of the party, even the soft left, someone's going to have to try and unite that, which is an impossibly difficult thing. But the right leader could do it, I think.
Angela Rayner?
Possibly, yeah.
So you'd potentially go back to the Labour Party if Angela Rayner were leader?
Possibly I would, but she's going to have to start speaking out against some of these things soon and making it clear to those on the left that we would be welcome again.
Well, there's this talk about a potential new left-wing party headed by Jeremy Corbyn. Could that tickle your interest?
I don't know that it would. He hasn't asked me. We're very friendly on the naughty benches, but yeah, I mean, possibly. I don't know, but I'm happy being independent because I can vote however I feel my constituents want me to on each issue, which is so freeing.
Of course, there is always this talk. I mean, we're going around the houses on different parties now, from Labour to Independents to Conservatives, but there's occasionally talk that the Conservatives that Kemi Badenoch would, particularly given that you're, given that you have a similar views, particularly on trans matters, that she would like to see you join the Tory benches. Is that something that you have considered? Have you been approached about it?
We joke about it a lot, Kemi and I, but I can't square lots of my other beliefs. I've never been a Tory. She knows I'm not a Tory. We happen to agree on one or two things, but that's where Labour have got some things wrong. The country is largely socially conservative, and I think that's where me and the Tories and other parties kind of tend to agree. But on things like immigration and, Brexit and all those other things, we're completely opposed. So I don't see that happening. Do
you admire Badenoch?
Yeah, I mean, we're friends. She's a great fun person. She's having a really tough time and a really tough job. But yeah, I do actually. She's going to keep on going, and she's a tough person.
What did you make of what we saw at Glastonbury yesterday?
Oh, I mean, I think what I want to question is everyone's entitled to their views, but I think it's not a great look if you put a woman in prison for a tweet for 31 months, but saying something equally divisive to a world stage is just sort of not commented on because it's an entertainer. I think the public are feeling like that. I've seen a few emails already this morning, actually. Lots of people. I think it creates a division that actually we should be doing our best to stop. Everyone's entitled to their views, so long as they're not outrightly racist. I think, that woman's tweet was awful, and she did apologise and take it down. But at the same time, a lot of Jews are very hurt and offended by what they saw yesterday in Glastonbury. Even if you are, joining those demonstrations in London, I think that was just a bit too far, frankly.
And talking about what the public think, honestly, you've now had, sort of 9 months or so since you made that announcement, 8 months or so.
Yeah.
You must have had constituents who are angry with you. You must have had constituents.
Any.
Really? You haven't had anyone come up to you and say, Rosie Duffield, I voted for you as a Labour MP.
No.
You should be a Labour MP. If you're not, why haven't you called a by-election?
Only Labour members, and then, just a handful. Not normal, ordinary, not party member constituents. I don't think I've had a single email. And I mean, I might be wrong, I might have missed a couple, but most people, when I meet them in Canterbury in the constituency, say thank you for doing that, because I've been able to vote against some of the things they're most angry with the government about. So I don't regret that at all.
But you could have done that as Labour MP, fight inside the team.
I could have done, but I would have lost the whip, just like John McDonnell did, and Absalna Begum and some of the others. So I still wouldn't have properly been a Labour MP. So I knew I was going to get the whip removed anyway at some point. So, yeah.
All right, Rosie Duffield there, MP, independent MP now for Canterbury and Whitstable.